I started in the fall of 2000 as a national security agency high school intern. So like back in the day, basically when I was like a preteen, my parents was like, "Yo, there's people in the family that have these great careers working in government because they started these careers in this high school internship program." I grew up and went to school in the counties like in between Baltimore and D.C. So like if you're like Baltimore is north, you coming south, you coming to Anne Arundel County, you coming to PG County, you hit D.C. So it's some decent school districts in Anne Arundel County, PG County, and I was blessed to like not have to just like I didn't grow up in the inner city, though the inner city wasn't far, and we still had a lot of the inner city problems trickle into the areas I grew up in, but Fort Meade is where NSA is located at, like most of their main operations and stuff. So they basically would like recruit interns in the local school districts and stuff. So like we literally had to come to school on like a Saturday and take like this like almost like an SAT test, but then also it's asking you psychological questions and stuff. And then I scored high on that. I was actually in like a tech program at my school because we were known for like vocational stuff. So I was taking programming in like 10th grade and stuff like that. But I kind of knew I was like, I ain't really like the mathematical programmy dude. But networking and making this stuff communicate and people be able to get on the desktop and stuff, I'm like, I think that interests me or whatnot. But basically what the government was doing with a lot of these internship programs, they were supplementing, especially in my generation. You got old secretaries retiring, and now they're able to fill in clerical work in a bunch of offices and stuff with a lot of us. Some of the real smart kids, they might like, oh, you get put in office and you're doing programming or you're like in the graphics office. I was an executive assistant. So, but they put me in like a cryptology unit. So I'm a part of an organization where like 500 people are like supporting like 12 of the world's best mathematicians that are just like literally, I knew this dude named Sam Garcia, man. He's probably in the history books. This dude was blind and he knew like every mathematical algorithm known to man in his mind. Like, you know what I'm saying? I never really seen him like perform the math, but I remember the way people talked about him and stuff like that. So these dudes like in the Iraq war, the Afghanistan war, the early 2000s, these are the folks that are like using equations to come up with long strings that basically crack your encryption on your signals and stuff like that. And back then, like the Iraqis and stuff, this is back when everybody just started to get cell phones here. So they're still using like radio frequencies and stuff. So they're cracking the encryption, and we got Arabic linguists translating everything they talking about. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like the people I worked with really figured out like where Saddam was. Like when they found Saddam hiding in that hole and all that shit, like that's the product of like people I was going to work with and supporting every day. So like the executive office of that particular org, like I got to see like what them kind of people thought. Like they just felt like regular people to me. I'm like a 16 going on 17-year-old kid in 2000, starting my senior year of school, coming onto a facility past a checkpoint with the machine guns. But then my freshman year of college, I did a good job in my internship. My office picked me up like, hey, give him a part-time permanent role, give him tuition assistance. And I'm in like my first or second week of college sitting in health class, and that's when 9/11 happens. So it's like literally that, and then the largest federal contract for IT jobs in national history came to my job site like a year before 9/11. So when I say like I made six figures at like 23, it's also the factors of all these things and me having a top secret clearance. Like I had to take the polygraph and all that shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, and then like I end my career at the CIA headquarters. Like that was my last contract.
Wait, so you worked with the CIA too?
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. FBI.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. So you literally were.
It just was contracts to me to just fix computers at the end of the day and build networks and stuff. Like
when you break it down, it makes sense. I mean, first of all, you're a really intelligent guy, so it makes sense that you could get into something like that. But then the proximity of where you live, when you're describing, like, oh yeah, well that's where
it's
all that.
All down the street.
It's all right there.
Yeah.
And then you get in, and then 9/11
and I get the highest clearance, and then 9/11 happened, so we're all sought after because you're almost
all
like
vetted. You're all
they're like, yo, we can train him quicker than it takes to make sure that this person can pass all of these.
We know him.
checks.
Yeah, dude, what an incredible.
Yeah.
So you lived a completely different life.
Yeah, and the thing is, at the time, I'm eyeballs deep in being in love with hip hop and rap music and building a production company. So I'm like using this great federal career to try to help my boys get out the gutter and stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Ew.
And really running around with a lot of shady energies that, like, I was lucky I kept my clearance as long as I did. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So how long did you do that? Like, how long were you in for?
I want to say it was about 12 years, like from basically right before I turned 17 to like right before I turned 30. So really like 13.
So,
Yeah.
okay, you approach your 30s, and that's where, is that
So
where you wanted to branch
when
out?
Barack started bringing them troops back, sequestration, they froze like trillions in government spending. I started coming to work and your coworkers might not be there. Like the third stringers on the help desk and stuff, they getting told not to come to work and stuff. And I was a guy that was really, really good at my job. Like I remember on my last contract, like I'm like #1 for closing out help desk tickets. Granted, I'm coming to work high. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm coming to work high because I don't want to hear your stupid office banter. Let me see my trouble ticket queue and stay busy in the hallways servicing people and closing out tickets. And then knowing that you early people that come in at 5, 6, 7 in the morning to get on my nerves are going to start leaving by like 2, 3 o'clock. Now I have the office to myself and I can sit in here and I can listen to podcasts like this. That's what I used to do. So at the end of the day, but I'm also a dude that take off whenever I really feel like it, you know, come into work late. So they didn't want to cut me, but once they started having to cut all of those budgets, you start looking at, Omar came in and he made 3 C-level people kind of get to be. We can pay them less. This one person kind of does almost as good work as Omar. He always comes in on time. Cut Omar. That's federal contracting. You know what I'm saying? So
What a ride, though, man.
yeah,
Like,
but I got to learn that world didn't teach me business. The contract side, if you get mentored by people that are going after the contracts that are getting rich, like you can learn so much about business. And I was starting to scratch the surface of kind of understanding that as I was leaving out, because the govies are just happy to get promotions and, you know, pay grade raises, and they can make great money. But I've had friends that work on like they work like 2 federal contracts and they've been pulled into rooms before and like, yeah, so if you're making all this money, what you need us for? Da, 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 da. Cause I had military homies, boy, they're used to being out in fields and wild stuff, and they're still super technical dudes that can come in here and build a network. And man, matter of fact, RP Chris Searcy, man, I ain't even said this man's name in a long time. He's a guy I worked with, man. He used to like I used to work with guys to be like, man, you get a job you work on and a job you sleep on. This is how a lot of ex-military dudes are going to federal contracting think, because they're used to having to be in uncomfortable places where you might have to still sleep and still be ready to jump up and be alert. So then once you get to come back to the States and it's like, oh, nighttime IT? This building holds 10,000 people, and at night there's only 200 people in it. You start learning like the nighttime gigs or like the chill ones and stuff. Daytime, you're going to work a little harder and stuff like that. But like Chris was the type dude, like he would pay off houses and stuff like that, bro. And I remember one time he's like, man, they pulled me in the office. They're like, man, I'm making so much money. Because they want you to stay stuck in the bubble and always be happy for that. Like, man, it's a mentality you start learning. Like, so then when you watch like these old movies, King Arthur, and they indoctrinate people with these ideologies and stuff like that, I learned it not from the perspective of being a military guy, but being government. And then I went contractor like 19. So I'm kind of one of you guys, but I'm kind of like, we're here for the money. Mm-hmm. I'll move jobs every 6 months if I can get the raise that I wanted. You know, it's some places I ended up at for a long time. Because once I hit that, like, just like 100. Like I remember seeing like 98, OT and shit. I'm like, okay, that means I'm gonna make over 100 this year and shit. Once I got there, I was like, I don't care about no raise or nothing. Let me just stay on cruise control here. I stayed on that contract for like 6 years till the war started coming to it and things started changing. Then I ended up getting on that last CIA contract. But
And 100 grand back then was way more than what it is now.
And that's why I say I kick myself in the butt to this day. Like, I wish I could river dance and do that little kicky dance and kick myself in the ass. Because it's like, imagine if I would have thought to make juices and things like that back then. Like my ideas.
Which we're going to get to. We're going to get to that. Yeah.
And look, I've probably been talking at least 30 minutes and I ain't even talked about this.
Oh, we'll get that.
But they need this backstory, man. I've done a lot of living, man.
Yeah, because I had no idea. Well, there's one question I got for you. I mean, you don't have to get into details, but just vaguely, how much money is just floating out there for government contracts? And I mean, there's just things that you don't even know about. People are signing 10,
honestly,
20,
even
$30
me
million
being in the nutritional game now, it's still ways I can interact with the government. Like, we think about these companies like Cisco. You ever see like Cisco? These are companies that like service, the arenas and all kind of things or whatever. But like, think about like government facilities like the size of small like cities or like a huge campus. Think about a college campus with 50,000 people on it and stuff, and just you got to feed these people every day. There's cafeterias there. Like, man, I remember going to work, man, and it's like, if you didn't get to work, like if you wasn't a real early bird and you come to work like after 9, like you might spend 30 minutes just looking for a parking lot to just walk a quarter mile to the gates to get into your building. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, I don't know, for me, man, it's made me understand scaling things in a different kind of way. You know what I'm saying? And when I was in it, I didn't think about it quite in the way that I do now. Now I really look at it and I'm like, damn, like, now, like when I watch even science fiction, like a Captain Kirk, I can imagine like when that Enterprise was first built, you have to build a certain technical team to even outfit it, to facilitate it, like, I be understanding what it takes to really be like the captain of a ship. You know what I'm saying? So like when I'm helping people in business and coaching, consulting, like I'm really that guy that it's like, when you watch like them old pirate movies, without the navigator, it don't matter how good of a captain he was, because that navigator, he reads the ocean and he knows the maps and stuff in a different kind of way because he done been a bunch of places, you know what I'm saying? So it for me, like, I really was in a space in my career towards me ending it where, like, if I wanted to kind of get more with the program, they would have been like sending me to get like my project management certifications, and like they knew that I had the ability to like, but I'm like, do I really want to have to interact with them? I'm trying to stay out of their way. I'm mad they talk about me so much because I'm number one for closing out tickets. So when I come to work late, they was looking for me early anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so you were a contract worker the whole time?
Most of it. So about 19. So like 2 years into it, 2.5 years into it, I jumped on a contract.
So you had the luxury of getting the pay and doing that work, but without the complete attachment. So you could be like, hey, I'm just a contractor.
Yeah. Because we were even taught, if it ain't in your work role and they ask you to do it, let them know. Bring it up to your PM. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, people don't even understand. That's why I'd be funny being out here in Hollywood and meeting young people and stuff that I'm like, do you understand how much, like, I used to, at times, I would get to choose, like, these are the 5,000 workstations we're going to buy for this machine. And I had to pick between which 3 out of the 3, which one. I'm like 17 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, when I look at the responsibility, but then also all these things resulted in America, quote unquote, winning a war and stuff like that. But then there's parts of me that used to be like proud of that because we're from a place where it's like, the girl know you got the good government job in pretentious Washington D.C. and da-da-da-da. You the hotshot contractor. It was kind of a cool little thing. But then I've met girls out here that are like the yoga, tree hugging, crystals in the window, charging in the full moon. And they're like, you're proud of that? You were a part of the war machine. And I'm like, oh, damn, they don't care about this stuff in places outside of the nation's capital the same way and stuff. You know what I'm saying?